Okay, so I just got done watching a piece of this. I can only handle so much of it. She's doing a talkie right off the hop. I'm not about to sit in there 3 hours and watch her do the physics. I actually like this particle on the river diagram about the wave function. If I don't know the current of the river, this is in superposition between no current and infinity current. But once the bird is flying, or the Enola Gay, you have regular flight time, cruising speed, which becomes zero. What is it, 700 miles an hour? I don't know, I'm just guessing. But that becomes zero because what you would operate is that speed to air acoustic. Somebody say, well, why not 1,000,000 miles an hour? Well, you try to bank at the degrees of the radial of the fat boy or little boy there on Hiroshima. Well, things are going to get a little complicated. The bones. But inside of here, I keep coming back to this solar system model, and I posted it up, but I didn't do a video about it. And she's getting into the math, and I love the math. I'm actually pretty decent with F in the form of force, or a line, or a dot, or why it's relative to line dot, or dot line, FX. A lot of that's going to be here in that statement. What is it? The main in, I guess, is what it is. Or no, fun in the function main is those parentheses. But technically, you're going to have to build to that. Without that, you're just in this math game, which is ridiculous. So again, I always say start ball, skull, map. When you have a ball, this is actually too many problems. I just need a ball and a sun. Technically, I just need a ball. I just need a ball on a screen that's referenced in space. There could be Alpha Centauri over here. I don't care. It's so weakly attracted to what gravity is that it's non-functionable to what I'm doing. I'm not about to make solar system. I'm making the physical game that is potentially bridging infinity cold, infinity hot. Technically, at this point in time, hydrogen atom, I don't know that there's a difference between the solar system and a hydrogen atom at that point in time. And for all intents and purposes, before we get complicated with the programming, there's no difference. Certainly doesn't work to the classical. I mean, it will, that there's a radial, a ball on a string, or a saw blade tooth, that individual slice of it by the square foot or square inches of the kerf catching the stone and friction will classical. And it'll classical much the same way that this weakly passes through stuff, bumps off other at that atomic level where it's still epsilon close enough to zero where I can approximate it. I mean, technically this program will tell me that the simulator on the saw blade's going to last me 6 months. The actual observation in the books says it was 4.5 months. Now, that may not seem like a lot to some of you people, but if you didn't know that log or that mod or that period, you're going to be good and fucked. That math is way wrong, but it's not to say that the math was wrong. It just needs to be now renormalized from that point. And that's a new program.
Sure. Welcome to Normalized Nerd. So this is the second part of...
Okay, so again, he gets in here, and he really does in the math... Oh, no, we want the math one first. Okay, so he's going to get in here, and he's going to write this all out. He does a great job. But again, the fact that we already have 3-body problem here is a little too much. I just want... Technically, it's mass and mass. Everything else out here is part of that. You probably had to build that first, or it was done. Once that's done, the superposition in Q-learning, or about why there's problems, the smooth transition between quantum mechanics and quantum gravity, smooth through classical physics, is not really there, because classical physics is the operating system. It is the system. The output would be a solar system or an atomic model or something relative, a piece of the machine, the motor, or every part, motor, chip inside of it that functions what it does from the floor schematics as one saw in that building with multiple others that might have different programs running. They look the same, And technically, I can't argue that this math is wrong when this turns over to an equals G, and then this is M1, M2 over R2. Because what R2 is here is to say, well, that distance is correct. And as long as that's following this system, this total diameter is 1/2 R. That is super critical because when we get into charges later, or why the the electro universe here, is that sometimes there's an orientation, like whether it be the type of chip, it's not an anode or something, but one's high and one's low, and that's the only difference about them. Technically, they do all the same stuff, except for that. There's the chip with the AND gates, this is the chip with the OR gates. If you put the wrong number in the wrong spot on the breadboard, it does not work. There's not a smooth transition between high frequency AC to low frequency AC, or vice versa, that it needed to be correctly. 0 can be on. That is to say, it's in the ground state. And when it's in the ground state, it can be on, because electricity is a superposition stuff. It's not that it's magic or that there was these routes. There's definitely has to be a wire. If there was a broken circuit inside of there, it does not work. This thing just floats off into the orbit, or an error screen is going to come up. And that's the firewall you see. You're not starting to softmax through the atmosphere. Somewhere's in there, though, is this idea of this is that layer of zero out here in space before it starts to come down, before you get to ground. And hydrogen, oxygen, which is what, there's 70% nitrogen in the atmosphere, 20% oxygen in there. That becomes a calc. I'm going to frictionless plumb bob it now. The simulator, Mario and Ash Ketchum, for all intents and purposes, throwing the Pokeball. I never seen the Pokeball throw. I just know between the pixel art of this little object and what's going to happen next, between the onion layers. Okay, and I'm getting a little technical, even for myself. But that is what I've done, and I got to make sure that as a teacher, or at least as a student, that is what I'm doing, that I've properly known that, okay, so in superposition, what would be the known next step? This is a logical quantum mechanic process. And vice versa, no matter that the steps, here we're building, throwing a ball calculus into a baseball player, what is it, NBA? Or Major League Baseball, MLB? They are different type of calculuses. Now, throwing a ball is what you do, but now we're trying sidearm technique. Is there a better? Now slider, over the incidence of how many pitches could be done through the game probability. If I change my ratio of fastballs, sliders, and curveballs, and I approximate that value in here, what's that tell me over the season? Is it right? No. That simulator too uncertain to be sure for Heisenberg's equation. They're irrational, and height is again this fx function that says the value I see is more important as the physics, but I can't determine that because this is faster. So I need this number to kind of generalize what was close to that within epsilon, what is 1 or 0. Now we can say 10 baseballs, or a missed day inside of there. It's going to wreck all of that, especially the earlier you get to the first pitch of the season. I just did that because, he, like I said, he does a fantastic job here actually he's reading off of something. And, this is all going to be critically that you program this. One, you know how to do it, or eventually knowing how to do it, you turn it into a program. So then I can JavaScript or C++, that hack code.
This is the second part of this video where I'm showing you how you can create this awesome solar system P5.js.
Immediately comes to this, and this is a few years ago, but still, my point is, you had all that stuff down to then come to an engine that will probably do at least the 0 portions of that for you. And now I get that that's great that you have this. This is fantastic. Without somebody telling me that this is where I was supposed to go, how would I have ever known that from this screen of me drawing that on there, that was where I was supposed to go. I mean, I get Google. I mean, there it is. I'll type it in. You know, I want to create a solar system with JavaScript, or here I'm using a HP Droid Chrome OS system. So it was Kotlin. And, you know, if Kotlin didn't have this and JavaScript's not smooth to come into here, then what was the Kotlin's equivalent for what that is? Totally lock you up and bring you right back to this square one about doing it, which is, again, this Klein bottle Mobius strip I've been ripping hard today. So have fun with it with me.